welcome back. Close your eyes and allow me to transport you to a gathering unlike any other. Imagine a lavish Hollywood party circa 1970s. Crystal chandeliers cast a brilliant, shimmering glow across the grand ballroom. Expensive evening gowns, tailored to perfection, sweep gracefully across polished marble floors. The air is thick with the murmur of hushed conversations, punctuated by the distinctive laughter of movie stars, banking tycoons, and real estate moguls. This isn't just a party, it's a spectacle of wealth and influence, a glittering display of opulence where the elite of society gather to see and be seen. Every detail screams extravagance, from the intricate decor to the designer attire, setting the stage for an evening of indulgence. In the heart of this dazzling gathering, on a sleek glass coffee table, amid an array of shimmering golden champagne flutes, sat a gleaming silver platter. And upon this exquisite dish, a small, pristine, white mountain glittered subtly under the ambient light. It wasn't sugar, nor was it a decorative centerpiece. This shimmering white substance was revered amongst the attendees, known by various hushed monikers: snow powder, white gold, or simply the caviar of the elite. It was an open secret, a symbol of status meticulously placed for all to see, its presence announcing a certain kind of exclusivity. The light caught its fine crystals, transforming it into a beacon of illicit allure, inviting the gaze and the indulgence of those who believed they were beyond reproach. With an air of audacious pride, they inhaled this forbidden white powder. For them, it was more than just a substance, it was a potent symbol, embodying their perceived success, boundless power, and even a fleeting sense of immortality. As it entered their systems, a profound transformation seemed to occur. They felt themselves elevated, almost godlike, suddenly sharper, more intellectually agile, their wit sparkling brighter. An undeniable charm emanated from them, making them feel effortlessly alluring, drawing others into their orbit. A surge of inner strength propelled them, dispelling any doubts, making them believe they were invincible, masters of their own destiny, riding the crest of an exhilarating, albeit artificial, high. But they were profoundly mistaken. Blinded by the superficial allure, they remained blissfully unaware of the true cost. They didn't know that for that pristine white powder to rest so elegantly on their silver platter, a river of blood had flowed. This grim current originated deep within the dense, humid rainforests of South America, tracing a brutal path all the way to the shadowy, neon-lit alleys of Miami. They chose to ignore, or simply couldn't fathom, that the fleeting euphoria they chased was built upon a foundation of unspeakable horror. Brutal beheadings, devastating bomb explosions, and the agonizing collapse of entire nations, torn apart by the very trade that fueled their fleeting pleasure. The story of cocaine transcends that of a mere addictive substance. It is a profound narrative woven with threads of insatiable greed and hubris, illustrating how a sacred green leaf, revered by indigenous cultures for centuries, was tragically transformed by modern civilization. What was once a symbol of spiritual connection and endurance became one of history's most brutal curses. This isn't just a tale of indulgence. It's an examination of human nature, of exploitation, and of the devastating consequences when ancient wisdom collides with unchecked ambition. Tonight, we peel back the layers of glamour and disregard the seductive sheen. We delve deeper, beyond the superficial sparkle, to uncover the true origins and the dark legacy of this potent powder. We will not begin our journey in the pulsating, noisy nightclubs of the modern world, nor amidst the superficial glitter of Hollywood. Instead, our true starting point lies much further back, in the very crucible where it all originated. We travel to a place where the air itself is a struggle to breathe, so thin it demands effort with every gasp, and where a bone-chilling cold has held its dominion for millennia. This is a land of extremes, a realm of breathtaking yet unforgiving beauty. Welcome, then, to the majestic and ancient Andes mountain range. This is Chapter 1. Mamakoka, the Secret of the Andes, where we uncover the deep-rooted origins of this powerful plant, far removed from its corrupted present. For the ancient Inca people, the sacred coca leaf was far more than just a plant. It was considered a divine gift, the very essence of life itself. Legends say it was bestowed upon humanity by Mamakoka, the Earth Mother, to ease their struggles and bring solace. They believed this humble, emerald green shrub, with its distinctive oval leaves, was the embodiment of a beautiful but short-lived goddess. In her memory, Inti, the sun god, allowed the plant to spring forth from her burial mound, imbued with sacred power to alleviate human suffering. Known reverently as Mamakoka, it offered more than mere sustenance. It provided comfort, strength, and a profound connection to the spiritual realm in a world often harsh and unforgiving. This deep reverence forged an unbreakable bond between the Inca and their miraculous plant. Imagine an Incan Chasky, a royal messenger, tasked with traversing the vast, rugged empire. With an urgent message to deliver, he embarks on an incredible journey, running hundreds of miles across treacherous mountain trails, where the air grows thin and the path precarious. He has no time for elaborate meals or restorative sleep. His endurance, his focus, and his very ability to breathe in the high-altitude environment are sustained by a simple yet profound custom: a wad of coca leaves chewed in his mouth. This small act provides the vital energy needed to push his body beyond ordinary limits, allowing him to maintain his relentless pace, delivering crucial information across peaks and valleys, a testament to the plant's practical power in the heart of the Inca civilization. The true magic of the coca leaf for the Inca lay not in its raw form, but in the ritualistic way it was consumed. When chewed alongside a small pinch of powdered lime, often made from burnt seashells, a controlled chemical reaction occurred. This alkaline substance gently released the plant's active alkaloids, a far cry from the intense, purified cocaine of modern times. It was not an intoxicating drug leading to euphoric highs or hallucinations, but rather a slow-acting stimulant akin to a robust cup of coffee. The effects were subtle yet profound: a warming sensation throughout the body, a gentle suppression of hunger, and a remarkable ability to ward off fatigue. This measured release provided sustained energy, clarity, and comfort, enabling the Inca to endure their challenging lives without disruption, a testament to their deep understanding of the plant. Coca permeated every facet of Inca spiritual and daily life, woven into the very fabric of their existence. It was an essential offering to the gods, a sacred bridge between the earthly and divine realms, presented with reverence during ceremonies and prayers to seek blessings or give thanks. In joyful celebrations such as weddings, coca leaves were an essential component of the ceremonial offerings, symbolizing fertility, prosperity, and an enduring union. Even in death, coca retained its sacred significance. Leaves were carefully placed in the mouths of the deceased, a final, poignant gesture to empower their journey into the afterlife, ensuring they had strength and guidance in the spirit world. This ubiquitous presence underscores coca's profound role as a spiritual anchor and cultural keystone for the Inca people. Beyond its spiritual and practical uses, coca also played a surprising role in early Incan medicine. The skilled Inca shamans and healers, renowned for their advanced knowledge, ingeniously employed the plant's properties in ways that predated modern medical practices. During rudimentary skull surgeries, known as trepanation, incredibly complex procedures for their time, these healers would chew coca leaves and then apply their saliva, imbued with the plant's mild analgesic properties, directly onto open wounds. This primitive yet effective method served as a powerful local anesthetic, alleviating pain and perhaps even offering some antiseptic benefits. It stands as a remarkable testament to the Incas' innovative use of their sacred plant, positioning Coca as arguably humanity's first documented local anesthetic, showcasing their profound understanding of its medicinal potential. For thousands of years, across countless generations, the coca leaf was not merely tolerated. It was revered, honored, and meticulously protected by the Inca civilization. It represented a fundamental link, a sacred conduit connecting the human realm with the spiritual, the earthly with the divine. It was present at every significant moment, from birth to death, in daily sustenance and grand ceremonies. The plant embodied a rich tapestry of history, myth, and utility, intertwining itself inextricably with the identity and survival of the Inca people. It was a symbol of their resilience, their wisdom, and their deep connection to the land and the cosmos, an irreplaceable gift from the gods that they cherished above almost all else, a constant source of inspiration and strength. But this era of profound reverence and harmony was tragically destined to end. In 1532, the tranquil horizon of the Inca world was broken by the ominous sight of white sails, heralding an irreversible change. Francisco Pizarro and his Spanish conquistadors landed on the shores of South America, bringing with them not only advanced weaponry and devastating diseases like smallpox, but also an insatiable, ravenous hunger for gold. The mighty Inca Empire, weakened by internal strife and foreign plagues, crumbled under the relentless assault. With its collapse, the fate of the sacred coca leaf began to twist, transforming forever. Initially, the Catholic Church and the Spanish invaders scorned coca, viewing it as a pagan vice, a work of the devil. They detested the indigenous practice of chewing the leaves, believing it an obstacle to their fervent mission of Christian conversion and control. Unable to comprehend its true significance, the Christian conquerors, perceiving coca use as a barbaric ritual, issued absolute prohibitions, ordering the burning of entire coca plantations. Yet, the hypocrisy of European colonialists was soon laid bare. Their moralistic stance crumbled with the discovery of the Potosí silver mine, what is now Bolivia. This was the world's largest silver deposit, a veritable mountain of silver, promising unimaginable wealth. To extract this treasure, the Spanish desperately needed labor. They enslaved millions of indigenous people, forcing them into the dark, suffocating tunnels of the mines. These laborers toiled for up to 20 hours a day under brutal, toxic conditions. But the Spanish soon encountered a critical problem. Their enslaved workforce was dying at an alarming rate. Exhausted, starved, and ravaged by the cold and relentless labor, they perished long before enough silver could be extracted. This crisis led them to remember the very plant they had once condemned. The colonial powers soon realized that if their enslaved workers chewed coca leaves, these individuals could labor tirelessly, needing less food and exhibiting greater docility. Suddenly, the absolute ban was lifted. In a perverse twist, the church and the Spanish crown began taxing coca leaves. They even used coca itself as a form of payment for their enslaved miners, only to resell it back to them, recapturing their meager earnings in a brutal cycle of exploitation. Historians estimate that over 3 centuries of colonial rule, millions of indigenous people perished in the Potosí mines. Their bones piled up like mountains, and beside these skeletal remains, dried coca leaves were invariably scattered. The sacred plant, revered for millennia, had been tragically transformed into an instrument of enslavement. Its ancient spiritual significance was utterly perverted to fuel colonial greed. For centuries, Coca remained a closely guarded secret of South America. Attempts by Europeans to transport coca leaves back to the old continent largely failed. The long sea voyages caused the leaves to become moldy and lose their potency. When Europeans tried chewing them, they found nothing remarkable, dismissing stories of coca's power as mere indigenous folklore and savage superstition. This skeptical view persisted until the 19th century, when the advent of modern science began to unravel its mysteries. Chapter 3: The Victorian Era and the Innocence of Science. In 1855, a German chemist named Friedrich Gaetschi first managed to isolate a crystalline substance from coca leaves, which he named erythroxylene. However, it wasn't until 1860 that a research student, Albert Niemann, perfected the extraction process. Niemann successfully refined a bitter, white, crystalline powder. Upon tasting it, he noted a distinct numbing sensation on his tongue. He christened this potent new compound cocaine. The coca leaf, once a mild stimulant, was now transformed. Processed, its power amplified hundreds of times, it was no longer a gentle pick-me-up but an energetic bombshell, a potent force unleashed upon the world. This was the 19th century, the heart of the Western Victorian era, a time intoxicated by the promise of progress. Society believed fervently that science held the key to unlocking every mystery and solving every ill. In this atmosphere of relentless optimism and boundless scientific faith, cocaine emerged, not as a dangerous drug, but as a genuine miracle drug, promising enhanced vitality and boundless possibilities. It was hailed as the dawn of a new era, where human potential could be unleashed. Into this world stepped Angelo Mariani, an ingenious French chemist. It was 1863 when Mariani conceived a revolutionary idea to infuse the potent coca leaves into a fine Bordeaux wine. The result was a concoction he proudly named Vin Mariani. Each bottle of this exquisite wine contained approximately 6 milligrams of cocaine, a dose believed to offer invigoration without excess. His creation was nothing short of a seismic event in the beverage world. Vin Mariani rapidly exploded in popularity, transcending borders and social strata to become the most cherished and consumed drink across the globe. Everyone, from renowned authors to innovative inventors, clamored for a taste. The list of Vin Mariani's devotees was truly astonishing. Literary giants like Jules Verne, whose imagination knew no bounds, and pioneering inventors such as Thomas Edison, whose brilliance illuminated the world, all sang its praises. Even Queen Victoria herself, the regal monarch of the British Empire, was said to be among its admirers. Yet, perhaps the most fervent and unexpected endorsement came from the highest echelons of spiritual authority. Pope Leo X, the Supreme Pontiff of the Catholic Church, developed such an affinity for the wine that he reportedly carried a personal flask wherever he went. In an unprecedented gesture, the Pope even bestowed the Vatican's gold medal upon Angelo Mariani, recognizing the immense benefits he had supposedly brought to humanity. It's almost unimaginable, the Pope drinking cocaine-laced wine and awarding a medal to its creator. This era, with its blend of scientific zeal and profound naivete regarding such substances, set the stage for one of cocaine's most vocal proponents. Not the Pope, but a young, ambitious Austrian doctor, who would later be revered as the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. The year was 1884. Freud, then a struggling but highly driven young man seeking to make his mark in the medical world, made a pivotal decision. He tried cocaine himself. The effects were immediate and profound. He was utterly captivated, describing it in effusive letters to his fiancée as a miracle powder. In one particularly vivid passage, he promised her, "In our next meeting, you will see me as strong as a wild bull." His conviction in cocaine's power was absolute. Freud's belief in cocaine's therapeutic potential was nothing short of absolute. He saw it as a panacea for nearly every human ailment. He was convinced it could effectively treat depression, lifting the heaviest of spirits. He prescribed it for common digestive issues, believing it could soothe even the most stubborn indigestion. Crucially, and perhaps most dangerously, he championed it as a cure for both alcoholism and, ironically, morphine addiction, a widespread problem of the time. Freud was so utterly convinced of its miraculous properties that he dedicated an entire book to its praise. Titled Über Coca, on Coca, this work served as his resounding endorsement, meticulously detailing his observations and unwavering conviction in the substance's vast and beneficial applications for humanity. However, the tragic consequences of this profound naivete would soon cast a long shadow, not in some distant clinical trial, but within Freud's very own inner circle, his personal home. Among his dearest friends was Ernst von Fleischl-Marxow, a brilliant and highly respected pathologist. Ernst was a man of considerable talent, but he carried a heavy burden, a severe addiction to morphine. This addiction was not born of recreational pursuit, but was a cruel byproduct of immense suffering. Having been prescribed the powerful opiate to manage excruciating pain following a series of surgical procedures, he was desperate for a cure, trapped in the grip of a relentless dependency that threatened to consume his life. With the best of intentions, and armed with his unwavering belief in cocaine's curative powers, Freud offered his friend a solution. He earnestly advised Fleischl-Marxow to turn to cocaine as a means to break free from the shackles of his agonizing morphine addiction. It was a recommendation born from genuine concern, and what Freud truly believed was a profound medical insight. However, the outcome was nothing short of catastrophic. Instead of finding liberation, Fleischl-Marxow tragically found himself in an even deeper abyss. He did not succeed in overcoming his morphine dependency. Instead, he developed an additional, equally crippling addiction to cocaine. The dual dependency spiraled him into a state of severe paranoia and psychosis, a harrowing mental breakdown that would prove to be irreversible. The early 20th century saw the terrifying propagation of a racist rumor. Black men, supposedly empowered and made fearless by cocaine, were transforming into aggressive predators, specifically targeting white women. This utterly baseless yet widely circulated fabrication had profound and lasting real-world consequences, fundamentally altering the landscape of American law enforcement. Across the American South, police departments, driven by this pervasive fear and hysteria, began petitioning for a significant upgrade in their standard-issue firearms. They actively sought to replace their less potent .32 caliber revolvers with the more powerful and larger bore .38 Special, genuinely believing that only such increased firepower could effectively subdue these imagined cocaine fiends. This dramatic shift in weaponry wasn't merely a tactical decision. It was a stark manifestation of societal prejudice and fear, indelibly changing both the public's perception of cocaine and the communities associated with it. Cocaine's image underwent a radical transformation from a celebrated intellectual wonder drug, even endorsed by figures like Freud, to a dangerous stimulant directly linked to crime, violence, and even sexual assault. This dramatic demonization culminated in a pivotal moment: the passage of the Harrison Narcotic Tax Act in 1914. This landmark legislation delivered the first major blow to cocaine's widespread availability and marked the abrupt end of its unregulated reign. Systematically swept from public view, cocaine vanished from the popular soft drinks that once proudly boasted its stimulating properties, disappeared from tobacco products, and was meticulously removed from the accessible displays of neighborhood pharmacies. This comprehensive control effectively pushed cocaine out of the mainstream, forcing it into the shadows and initiating its long, clandestine journey away from common public consumption and into the illicit underworld. For the subsequent 5 decades, spanning the vibrant, roaring 20s through the tumultuous 1960s, cocaine entered a period of profound hibernation, virtually disappearing from public consciousness. It became an exceptionally rare and exorbitantly priced commodity, largely relegated to the background as heroin and marijuana emerged to dominate the illicit drug markets. Its subtle presence was primarily confined to the clandestine corners of dimly lit underground jazz clubs, where gifted musicians, fueled by its illicit kick, would engage in marathon performances, pushing the boundaries of their art and playing through the night until the early hours of dawn. The wider world seemed to have utterly forgotten about cocaine, relegating it to a bygone, almost mythical era. Yet, it was merely dormant, patiently awaiting a new epoch and a far different audience. A generation wealthier, more audacious, and perhaps more uninhibited in their relentless pursuit of pleasure than any before them. The stage was being meticulously prepared for the arrival of the baby boomers. Welcome to the vibrant and exuberant 1970s. As the Vietnam War finally concluded, America yearned to shed its burdens and embrace a new era of celebration. Nowhere was this spirit more palpable than at Studio 54 in New York, the globe's most iconic nightclub. Imagine stepping inside. Dazzling neon lights flashed, colossal mirror balls spun above, casting shimmering reflections across the dance floor. Michael Jackson, Elton John, and the world's top supermodels moved to the disco beat. And in the exclusive VIP rooms, discreetly laid out on gleaming glass tables, cocaine made its grand return, not as a street drug, but as a king. This wasn't the substance of the impoverished or the anti-war counterculture. 1970s cocaine was the drug of the successful, the affluent. It was incredibly expensive. A single gram could cost half a laborer's monthly wage, making its use a blatant display of wealth. America's elite proudly dubbed it the champagne of drugs. In a surprising echo of past mistakes, the late 20th century saw a resurgence of naive beliefs about cocaine, hailed by some as the champagne of drugs. Medical professionals and trendy magazines of the era spread a dangerously misleading message. Cocaine wasn't addictive, at least not in the physical sense like heroin. They claimed it was merely a soft drug, akin to having a bit too much coffee, perfectly suited for fashionable parties and social gatherings. This blissful ignorance, however, was a catastrophic misjudgment, setting the stage for an epidemic. History, once again, was doomed to repeat its errors, with devastating consequences. This era of perceived innocence fostered a culture of glamorous indulgence. The wealthy and fashionable embraced cocaine with a theatrical flair, using ornate gold and silver tools to snort it, or casually rolling crisp $100 bills into makeshift straws. Small, elegantly packaged vials of cocaine became chic birthday gifts, exchanged among friends as tokens of modern sophistication. Users described feeling incredibly sharp, intelligent, and most dangerously, utterly invincible. They were convinced they were merely enhancing their social experiences, blissfully unaware of the powerful grip the drug was tightening around them, seducing them with its fleeting promise of invincibility. But this burgeoning demand, fueled by a naive public and fashionable endorsements, created an insatiable hunger for the white snow across America. The sheer volume required to satisfy the nation's increasingly greedy nostrils far outstripped any localized supply, necessitating a vast and sophisticated network. This colossal task attracted a new breed of entrepreneur, not the legitimate, but the illicit. It was a calling for individuals bold enough to build an infrastructure of crime, to bridge continents with contraband. This desperate need for a robust supply chain would soon usher in the legendary figures of the criminal underworld, forever changing the landscape of global drug trafficking. Among them, a name would rise to infamy: George Young. Before becoming the notorious Boston George, George Young was a quintessential hippie, a marijuana smuggler who piloted small planes laden with cannabis from Mexico into the United States. His life, a blur of carefree indulgence and low-stakes crime, took an unforeseen turn when he found himself behind bars. It was in the confines of prison that Jung's path intersected with Carlos Lader, a Colombian-German drug trafficker with a vision far grander and far more dangerous than anything Jung had ever conceived. This chance encounter, born out of shared incarceration, would prove to be a pivotal moment, not just for Jung, but for the entire trajectory of global drug distribution, setting the stage for a new era of illicit enterprise. Later, with a shrewd mind for business and an ambitious spirit, challenged Jung's small-time thinking. He posed a question that would forever alter Jung's perspective on drug trafficking. Why are you still carrying marijuana? It's bulky, it stinks, and the profit margins are negligible. Then, with a conspiratorial glint in his eye, Carlos produced a small quantity of pure white powder. "Look at this," he declared. "This is cocaine. You can fit $1 million worth of it into a single carry-on bag." For Jung, it was an epiphany. The contrast was stark: the cumbersome, aromatic bales of weed versus the compact, odorless, high-value powder. The prison cell became the unlikely birthplace of a revolutionary idea that would soon redefine international drug smuggling. Released from prison, George Young and Carlos Lader wasted no time. They forged a partnership that transcended small-time street dealing, aiming instead for an industrial scale. They weren't merely smuggling, they were launching a revolution in drug transportation. Gone were the days of hiding small stashes in shoes or attempting to swallow drug-filled balloons. Jung and Lader pioneered a new method: large-scale aerial delivery. Utilizing light aircraft, they developed routes that flew dangerously low over the ocean, hugging the surface to evade radar detection, delivering hundreds of kilograms of pure cocaine directly from the jungles of Colombia straight into the waiting hands of distributors in Florida. The floodgates were open. The success of their aerial supply chain was staggering. Money poured in at an unimaginable rate, overwhelming their ability to count it. They resorted to weighing their profits by the ton. Their ambition knew no bounds, extending to the purchase of private islands in the Bahamas, transforming these idyllic locales into critical refueling stations for their cocaine-laden aircraft. America became utterly saturated, engulfed by a blizzard of white snow. Yet, for all his pivotal role, George Jung was ultimately just the transporter. He opened the gates, but the true architects of this deadly empire, the power brokers who cultivated and produced this lethal white powder, remained in the shadows, far away in Colombia. They were the puppeteers, pulling the strings from a distance. The carefree days of the 1970s were rapidly fading. The glitter of Studio 54 dimmed as a darker reality set in: the true cost of cocaine. Users found their bodies ravaged, nasal septums eroded, hearts erratic, and bank accounts empty. As drug demand surged and funds dwindled, an unprecedented wave of violence consumed the streets. Miami, once a tranquil haven for retirees, was abruptly thrust into chaos, transforming into America's deadliest battlefield. Morgues overflowed, forcing authorities to rent refrigerated Burger King trucks for the mounting casualties. This new era of bloodshed was orchestrated by ruthless Colombian cartels, led by Griselda Blanco. known as the Godmother or the Black Widow, she ruled with a terrifying philosophy: shoot first, ask questions later. Griselda pioneered the chilling motorcycle assassin tactic: 2 hitmen on a bike, unleashing bullets into a target's car, vanishing in seconds. This brutal efficiency culminated in the infamous Dadeland Mall massacre of 1979, a brazen daylight shootout that ushered in the age of the cocaine cowboys. The tranquil aisles of the liquor store transformed into a scene of unimaginable horror. Blood, a stark contrast against the pristine white tiles, pooled across the floor, a macabre testament to the chaos that had erupted. Panicked shoppers, once leisurely browsing for drinks, now trampled over each other in a desperate, primal scramble for survival. The infamous Dadeland Mall shooting wasn't just another act of violence. It was a brutal, undeniable awakening for an entire nation. This massacre dragged the clandestine drug war from the shadows, where it had festered unseen for too long, into the harsh, unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. Americans, initially shocked to their core, soon grasped the grim reality. This wasn't merely the illicit dealings of local gangsters anymore. This was a full-scale war, raging on their very streets, claiming innocent lives. The boundaries had dissolved, and the conflict had reached an unprecedented, terrifying level of intensity, forever altering the perception of organized crime in the nation's psyche. The Medellin cartel, at its zenith, amassed an astonishing $420 million weekly. Pablo Escobar's wealth became so immense, he genuinely struggled to manage it. He resorted to burying vast stacks of cash underground and hiding them within the walls of his many properties. Tragically, he annually forfeited an estimated 10% of his fortune, a staggering $2 billion, simply due to damage from rats chewing through the bills or mold consuming the hidden stashes. Such was the sheer volume of his illicit gains that he reportedly spent $2,500 each month just on rubber bands to bundle his enormous piles of cash. This illustrates the unprecedented scale of his criminal enterprise. This astonishing fortune propelled Pablo Escobar to an almost mythical status, officially recognized by Forbes magazine as the 7th richest man in the world. With his seemingly limitless wealth, he constructed Hacienda Nápoles, a truly sprawling and extravagant estate that defied imagination. This personal paradise boasted its own private airport, complete with runways capable of handling large aircraft, a dedicated racetrack for vehicles, and an exotic wild animal park unlike any other. He personally imported rare and magnificent creatures like hippos, giraffes, and elephants directly from Africa, transforming the Colombian landscape into his private, fantastical kingdom, a testament to his unchecked power and opulence. But Pablo's power extended far beyond mere money. It was intrinsically linked to fear and enforced loyalty. He presented Colombian officials, police officers, and judges with the stark, brutal choice: plata o plomo, silver or lead. This chilling ultimatum meant they could either accept his silver, his generous bribes, or face the lead of his bullets, a swift and violent death. Unsurprisingly, the vast majority chose the silver, understanding the deadly consequences of defiance. Those who dared to choose lead, who refused his illicit offers, were ruthlessly and brutally murdered, serving as grim warnings to others. What about those who had no money? How could a luxury enjoyed by the elite be turned into a habit for the poor? The answer lay in a simple, chilling chemical formula. They took pure powdered cocaine, mixed it with water and baking soda, baking king soda as it was known, and boiled it. This mixture precipitated into small, off-white, rock-hard pebbles, like gravel. When heated for smoking, it emitted a characteristic popping, crackling sound. Crack, crack, and thus the name crack was born. The difference between powdered cocaine and crack was profound. Powdered cocaine offered a slow indulgence. You'd snort it, and 10 minutes later, feel exhilarated. But crack was a direct punch to the brain. As the smoke entered the lungs, it impacted the brain in just 8 seconds. The euphoric rush was instant, a sensation 10 times more intense, but tragically, it lasted only 5 to 10 minutes. And most crucially, it was cheap. A single dose of powdered cocaine cost $100, but a crack rock was just $5. For $5, anyone could buy a ticket to heaven, or, more accurately, a one-way trip to hell. In 1984, the crack epidemic erupted, sweeping through the impoverished, predominantly black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, New York, and Detroit like a Category 5 hurricane. It spared no one, indiscriminately affecting young and old men and women. Mothers neglected and starved their children, desperate for another rock. Healthy young men rapidly transformed into emaciated husks, listlessly wandering in crack houses. Crime, especially murder, skyrocketed as addicts were willing to do anything for their next hit. America was in a state of panic. President Ronald Reagan declared a fierce intensification of the war on drugs. Yet, behind this devastating epidemic lay a dark shadow, a conspiracy that history has yet to fully illuminate. In 1996, investigative journalist Gary Webb published a shocking series of articles titled Dark Alliance. He presented compelling evidence suggesting that throughout the 1980s, the CIA, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, was fully aware of and even tacitly condoned Nicaraguan Contra rebel groups smuggling tons of cocaine into Los Angeles. Their motive? To enable the Contra forces to purchase weapons and continue their fight against the pro-Soviet Sandinista government in Nicaragua. It was a cynical and brutal truth. To finance a proxy war abroad, people were willing to sacrifice entire communities at home, fueling a drug epidemic with devastating long-term consequences for American society. The poison flowed unchecked into the very streets of America. Profits from crack sales in Los Angeles ghettos were funneled into weaponry fueling conflicts in the Central American jungles. Investigative journalist Gary Webb brought these disturbing truths to light, revealing the CIA's complicity. For his efforts, Webb was crushed, his career destroyed, his life ending mysteriously in what was ruled a suicide, despite 2 bullets to the head. Yet the profound questions he raised endure, an indelible stain on modern history. They force us to confront the uncomfortable alliances forged in the shadows. This brings us to a critical juncture. Chapter 9. The Biological and Environmental Price. We've explored the money, the power, the violence. But what does cocaine truly ravage most profoundly? Ultimately, it is the human soul and the very blood of the earth that bear the heaviest cost. Let's peer inside the brain of an addict. Cocaine works by preventing the reuptake of dopamine, our feel-good hormone, flooding the brain with an overwhelming surge of pleasure. But when the high inevitably fades, the brain is left depleted, burnt out. It loses the ability to produce dopamine naturally. The devastating consequence is a medical condition known as anhedonia, the profound inability to experience joy. Long-term cocaine users no longer find pleasure in a delicious meal, a warm embrace from a loved one, or the breathtaking beauty of a sunset. Their lives become a desolate, gray landscape of despair. The only sliver of joy they can perceive is the next dose. They cease to live, they merely exist, enslaved to the insatiable demands of their addiction. And it's not just humanity that suffers. Mother Nature herself is bleeding. To produce those pristine grams of white powder on a New York party table, millions of hectares of the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of our planet, have been brutally cleared for coca cultivation. Yet, the environmental horror deepens with the production process itself. To extract cocaine from the leaves, vast quantities of gasoline, sulfuric acid, ammonia, and cement are relentlessly employed. Millions of liters of these highly toxic chemicals are then callously dumped directly into the majestic rivers of Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. These once vibrant waterways, vital arteries of life, are transformed into rivers of death. Fish float belly up, their scales lifeless, while the surrounding land becomes permanently poisoned. The ecological scars are profound and irreversible. Every line of cocaine, casually snorted by a privileged individual, doesn't just contain the silent screams of cartel victims. It carries the very lifeblood of the dying Amazon. The environmental devastation, coupled with the profound human cost, the shattered minds and broken lives, weaves a tapestry of unimaginable suffering. As the night deepens, our harrowing dossier on cocaine reaches its final chapter. December 2nd, 1993. On a sun-baked rooftop in Medellin, Colombia, the reign of Pablo Escobar, the notorious king of cocaine, came to a violent end. Shot down in a hail of bullets, his empire crumbled, but the legacy of his reign and the industry he epitomized continues to cast a long, dark shadow across the globe. The fight against this pervasive evil, it seems, is far from over. His empire crumbled. Griselda Blanco was deported back to Colombia, where she was later assassinated by the very method she helped invent. 2 hitmen on motorcycles shot her dead while she was buying meat at a market. The kingpins may have fallen, but did the flow of cocaine ever cease? No. When the Medellin cartel collapsed, the Cali cartel rose to power. When the Cali cartel fell, Mexican cartels surged, asserting their dominance. This relentless cycle reveals a stark truth. As long as humanity craves power, as long as individuals feel an emptiness within, and as long as there's a desire for artificial euphoria, the white powder will continue to flow. It's a never-ending saga, where one empire's demise only paves the way for another's ascension, fueled by the insatiable demands of a world seeking fleeting highs and ultimate control. From the sacred leaf used by the Inca people to commune with their deities, a symbol of spiritual connection, cocaine has been tragically twisted by human greed into a tool of the devil. It grants us a fleeting sensation of being royalty for 15 glorious minutes, only to then enslave us for a lifetime. This insidious cycle of euphoria and dependency is the true legacy of the white powder. The story of cocaine serves as a stark mirror reflecting our own modern society. Dazzling and glamorous on the surface, yet often hollow and rotten within. It embodies the fast-paced, intense, and hurried nature of our world, which, despite all its apparent excitement, profoundly lacks genuine inner peace. This journey into its dark heart reveals the hidden costs of chasing artificial highs. We hope this almost 90-minute journey tonight has helped you see through the glittering dust of illusion. It's time to cherish the peace of mind, to value the simple, natural joys life offers, for these are the most sustainable forms of dopamine, a true gift from creation. Now, let us set aside all anxieties, the battles, the conspiracies, and the desires that haunt us. Let them remain out there in the darkness. Here, there is only tranquility. Allow sleep to come to you gently and naturally, without the need for drugs or artificial stimulants. If you found this in-depth documentary series insightful, please leave a like and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the M4Y Archives channel so we can continue to uncover other mysteries together. Thank you for listening. We wish you a peaceful good night.